Hong Kong on alert over suspected bird flu case in Guangdong. Head of police watchdog seeks to cool dispute over protest, and Barack Obama promises reforms to U.S. surveillance activity.
Good evening. We begin tonight in the latest with the suspected H7N9 bird flu case in Guangdong province. The patient, a 51-year-old poultry worker, is in critical condition in a hospital in Guangzhou. And as Vicky Kung reports, both Hong Kong and Guangdong are stepping up the fight against the possible spread of the virus.
Officials in Huizhou are taking no chances in their campaign against bird flu. Staff have begun cleaning the city's streets and markets, and dozens of chickens have been culled in one wet market alone. Health authorities in Guangdong believe the case in Huizhou involving the 51-year-old female poultry worker, surnamed Chen, is an isolated one. They stress there are no signs of human-to-human transmission. The patient is now being treated in a hospital in Guangzhou. Her husband says all three members of the family work in the poultry trade. Their 20-year-old son was among dozens of people put under medical observation. He had a slight fever last night, but today his temperature is normal. And the husband complained that the government had failed to offer them any help since the case came to light. Here in Hong Kong, poultry vendors are also getting ready to face the H7N9 virus head-on. Some of them say they have stepped up precautionary measures in recent days, and health experts have called for vigilance. They say there's currently no vaccine for the virus and no way to distinguish sick from healthy birds. Unlike what happens in an H5N1 outbreak, chickens that contract the H7N9 virus will still appear lively and well until they die. Now, testing is the only way to figure out which bird carries the virus, but it's impossible to check all poultry one by one. The Hong Kong government says it will closely monitor the situation, but does not plan to ban poultry imports from across the border, at least for the time being.
The mainland authority are taking measures ahead of us. Okay, they already stopped all the trade in the wet markets before we implement a ban. It gives people an impression we are lacking in terms of the measures, in terms of our overall SAR response to a probable human H7N9 infection.
Currently, Huizhou has 8 farms that supply live poultry to Hong Kong, accounting for less than 10% of all imports from the mainland. Vicky Kung, TVB News.
A week after the Mong Kok clashes between supporters of the police and those denouncing what they see as biased actions by officers, the debate rages on. Today, the head of the Independent Police Complaints Council sought to ensure cooler heads would prevail. While the public has made hundreds of complaints against Superintendent Gregory Lau for voicing support for his frontline workers at the rally last Sunday, upset officers have also filed complaints against the Secretary-General of the police watchdog. They accuse Ricky Chu of jumping to conclusions in stating Lau was in fact taking part in a political activity which officers generally have to abstain from. Speaking to TVB News today, the watchdog's chairman tried to play down the row.
What is more important is not whether it's a political activity, but whether it is an activity which may lead the officer to be unable to discharge his duties impartially and fairly, or give the impression that he may not be able to. And I think the question about whether it's political activity has probably blown out of proportion.
What's even more important, Jat said, is to understand the underlying problem.
It's a question of impression. The government is seen to be pro a certain particular faction. And if there are citizens who are against that, then they will very easily think that the police is acting, being an arm of the government, is on the other side. I think that is what has caused the problem.
The IPCC chairman said the police force could come up with guidelines to clear things up.
There are debates as to what are the activities that police officers should or should not take part in. So it seems to be an occasion where the police can clarify that for the benefit of their staff and also for the benefit of the public to avoid any further controversy.
He said it's important to remember that police officers have rights too, even though they're supposed to stay politically neutral. And Jack called on the public to be respectful when exercising their right to express their opinions and not to take their grievances out on frontline officers.
Turning overseas now, US President Barack Obama has promised reforms to surveillance activity to try to end fears that America is spying on its citizens and those of other nations when and whenever it wants. But Obama made no apology for the programs already in place and appeared to blame leakers of classified material such as Edward Snowden for twisting the debate in an uninformed way. US President Barack Obama tried to set the record straight that his administration has not been running a cold, calculated and clandestine campaign to monitor the activities of American citizens. The president said there were plenty of privacy safeguards and such programs were necessary to protect America. But to calm people's fears, he unveiled 4 proposals to guarantee greater oversight of the controversial programs, which have been under fire ever since they were exposed by whistleblower Edward Snowden.
First, I will work with Congress to pursue appropriate reforms to Section 215 of the Patriot Act, the program that collects telephone records. Second, I'll work with Congress to improve the public's confidence in the oversight conducted by the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court. Number 3, we can and must be more transparent. Fourth, we're forming a high-level group of outside experts to review our entire intelligence and communications technologies.
While Obama welcomed a debate on the issue, he lamented that irrational discussion had taken hold. That impassioned debate began more than 2 months ago, when Snowden leaked classified material detailing the scale of US spying activity, much to the irritation of the White House. Some have called Snowden a courageous patriot for lifting the lid on US surveillance operations. But that didn't fly with Obama.
No, I don't think Mr. Snowden was a patriot. As I said in my opening remarks, I called for a thorough review of our surveillance operations before Mr. Snowden made these leaks. Mr. Snowden's been charged with 3 felonies. If, in fact, he believes that what he did was right, then, like every American citizen, he can come here, appear before the court with a lawyer, and make his case. The US will reopen most of its embassies and consulates that were closed in the Middle East and Africa because of alleged terror threats against them. The US State Department didn't give a reason for the decision to reopen the 18 compounds, but the embassy in Yemen will stay shut. They were closed last weekend and non-essential staff ordered to leave because alleged threats from terror groups like Al-Qaeda. And the US consulate in the Pakistani city of Lahore, which was closed 2 days ago because of a separate threat, will also stay shut.
A Bangladeshi man was sentenced to 30 years in jail in the US for attempting to blow up the New York Federal Reserve Bank. He had pleaded guilty and told a judge he now rejects radical Islam and apologized to the people of New York. The 22-year-old Bangladeshi man was arrested in October last year, carrying what he believed was a bomb. Instead, it turned out to be a harmless material planted by an undercover FBI agent as part of a sting operation. After repeatedly trying to detonate the explosives, he was arrested. Authorities say he first targeted the New York Stock Exchange and US President Barack Obama before deciding to bomb the Federal Reserve Bank in Manhattan. US President Barack Obama insists his decision to cancel talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin next month has nothing to do with Russia granting Edward Snowden asylum. But soon after citing a lack of progress on a shared agenda between the two countries, Obama did take some verbal swipes at Putin. Sonia Artero has more.
Barack Obama still plans to attend the G20 summit in St. Petersburg, but one thing's certain, he won't be making time for the Russian president. While Obama insists it's nothing personal, he couldn't help but take a personal shot at Vladimir Putin's awkward demeanor at past meetings.
He's got that kind of slouch, looking like the bored kid in the back of the classroom.
In yet another swipe, Obama likened Putin's attitude towards America to the Cold War contest between the United States and the Soviet Union.
I've encouraged Mr. Putin to think forward as opposed to backwards on those issues, with mixed success.
I think the government
Putting Snowden's asylum aside, Obama maintains not agreeing on Moscow's support for the Syrian government and a host of human rights concerns are reasons he won't be meeting face-to-face with Putin.
Our decision to not participate in the summit was not simply around Mr. Snowden. It had to do with the fact that, frankly, on a whole range of issues where we think we can make some progress, Russia has not moved.
And despite Russia's new law of cracking down on gay rights activism, Obama made it clear the U.S. will not boycott next year's Winter Olympics in the Russian city of Sochi. And in meetings with top U.S. officials in Washington yesterday, even Russia's foreign minister was adamant the Snowden controversy did not overshadow those talks.
But the main discussion was about the issues on the agenda, which are of huge interest to the United States, to the Russian Federation, and to the entire world.
The two nations remain at odds over trade, global security, and American adoptions of Russian children. Sonia Artero, TVB News.
And still to come in our news tonight, fatalities as plane hits homes in Connecticut. How SEPA changes Hong Kong 10 years on. And Jason Dufner on fire at the PGA Championship.
Welcome back. Heavy rain has triggered flooding and landslides in northern Japan, killing at least 5 people. The town of Yahaba in Iwate Prefecture was among the hardest hit. Hundreds of residents were evacuated from their homes yesterday. In Akita Prefecture, a number of deaths were reported after a mudslide crushed 2 houses. Rescuers are searching for anyone who may still be trapped under the rubble. At least 4 people were killed and 2 are feared dead after a small plane crashed into 2 homes, setting them ablaze in the U.S. state of Connecticut. A former Microsoft vice president and his son were killed when the twin-engine plane piloted by Bill Henningsgaard crashed into the 2 homes yesterday. 2 children aged 1 and 13 were killed inside one home while their mother escaped. The plane, which flew out of New Jersey, was trying to land when the pilot missed his approach. One witness believes the plane accidentally hit power lines before it burst into flames and crashed. The U.S. National Transportation Safety Board is investigating the case.
Now, you might have thought that one of the richest women on the planet would have no problem buying a designer handbag at an exclusive store, right? But in Oprah Winfrey's case, there was a problem, and it's ignited a row over accusations the store was racist towards her. While in Switzerland for the wedding of singer Tina Turner last month, the US talk show host went shopping and asked to see one of the bags on display, but the shop assistant kept brushing Oprah off, telling the media mogul that it was too expensive for her. And speaking about the incident on TV later, she told her audience that she could have made a big deal about it, but she let it slide. The Zurich shop later denied it had been racist towards Oprah, saying it was all just a misunderstanding.
And back locally, authorities say they have smashed a cocaine manufacturing facility in Tai Kok Tsui. They arrested 1 man and seized 4.7 kilos of cocaine. Stephanie Choi reports.
Yet another drug bust was made when customs officers seized 5.2 million Hong Kong dollars worth of cocaine.
As the summer comes, the Customs and Excise Department step up the enforcement actions, both at the control points, airports, and also in town area. And as a result, the case number goes up recently.
Authorities said during an anti-narcotics operation last night, they saw the suspect acting suspiciously. They then followed the 26-year-old unemployed man, which led them to the drug manufacturing facility in Tai Kok Tsui.
According to our investigations, the manufacturing center is run by a Cocaine Manufacturing and Distribution Syndicate. And the syndicate will usually distribute the drugs in Kowloon area.
Authorities seized 4.7 kilos of cocaine, 1.9 kilos of crack cocaine, and 2.8 kilos of its original powder form. Pots, induction cookers, baking soda, and water were all the offender needed to turn cocaine into crack cocaine, which at 1,300 Hong Kong dollars per gram rakes in a handsome profit. Authorities say this was the first time a local cocaine manufacturing facility had been discovered since 2011. They're continuing to investigate the case. Stephanie Choi, TVB News.
Well, it's been 10 years since Hong Kong and the mainland signed the Closer Economic Partnership Agreement, or arrangement, also known as CEPA. It was during the time of SARS and a bad economic climate when this was done. The goal was to make it easier for goods and services to cross the border. As Zella Chin reports on how Hong Kong has fared, she looks at how it's done under a decade of CEPA.
Hong Kong firms that want to use CEPA to do business on the mainland need to apply for a certificate. From the initial burst in 2004, with more than 600 applications received, it's dropped significantly in recent years.
Before CEPA, many services have already practicing their business in China. CEPA helps to formalize all this kind of investment. It will also impose certain kind of constraints. It may not be more cost-effective than before.
Architect Felix Lee tried to benefit from CEPA. First, he had to pass the architectural exam across the border. Then, he needed to register at a mainland firm, meaning find a job in one.
I'm working at this firm, so it will be difficult for me to register in another in mainland China.
The Hong Kong Institute of Architects says only 0.3% of architects are PRC registered.
There are a lot of China regulations that kind of make the CEPA not as effective as we thought.
The biggest winners may be the retailers in Hong Kong, thanks to CEPA's individual visit scheme. Mainland visitors could travel here alone, not in a tour group. 112 million mainlanders have taken advantage of this scheme, and they made a considerable impact on the local economy.
At least half of the retail sales of Hong Kong come from this demand of the mainland visitors.
This Hangzhou couple are on their maiden trip to Hong Kong. Because we're preparing for a wedding, we bought a pair of watches and some jewelry. They've spent about $80,000 each on purchases alone. Arthur Chung started this retail business in Tsim Sha Tsui during SARS.
In 2004 and 2005, suddenly, mainland tourists make up around 60% of all customers. They pick up 10 bags in hands and they can buy all once at a time.
Whether businesses did well or not in 10 years of CEPA, many still look north for opportunities. Zella Chen, TVB News.
And for more on this story, tune in to Money Magazine tomorrow at 7 p.m.
Members of the Long-Term Housing Strategy Steering Committee admit it will be hard for the government to meet Hong Kong's housing needs for the next 10 years. They say officials will have to work hard to try and balance the interests of different stakeholders when it comes to finding space for further development. Joao da Silva reports.
470,000 housing units in 10 years. An ambitious yet achievable goal, according to members of the Long-Term Housing Strategy Steering Committee.
It's difficult to increase the supply for the coming several years. But for the later part of the 10 years, I believe that if the government is working hard to find more land, and also if they got the support of the community, I think we still have a chance to do it.
Few in Hong Kong would disagree with the government's decision to make increasing the housing supply a priority. But when it comes to actually freeing up the space for it, whether through developing farmland or redeveloping industrial buildings, numerous voices will speak against it.
We always face the issue from the resistance from the various areas, from the people, from different sectors, even the business sector.
More housing means not only finding land to build new residential units, but also redeveloping existing buildings. And that's where the Urban Renewal Authority comes in. In the coming years, it wants to speed up the redevelopment process, but that too poses challenges.
We would like to redevelop slightly bigger sites. So in that case, we will be facing a bit of a problem in terms of rehousing. because more and more often we come across subdivided units, so we have more tenant households. And so we need more public housing to rehouse them.
But a lack of housing supply at the moment means that residents of subdivided units will have to stay put, at least for now. João da Silva, TVB News.
All right, Tony, what's in sports today?
Well, golf and the last major of the season. Lots of good, exciting action. American Jason Dufner has the lead at the halfway point of the PGA Championship in New York. As Jameson Wong shows us, Dufner nearly made golfing history in yesterday's second round.
The name is Dufner, not Duffer, although he looks like someone you might see on a public golf course somewhere. But he's got the game to go along with the carefree demeanor. And when the unassuming Jason Dufner holed out from the fairway for eagle on number 2 at Oak Hill, you knew this was going to be a special round. On 18, the 36-year-old American had a chance for history and a 62, the lowest score in a major. Dufner settled for a 63 and a 2-shot lead over a trio of golfers entering today's third round.
Yeah, a little bit. You know, it's tough when you're chasing history. You'd be the first one to do something. I don't think I've been the first to do anything in my life. So, you know, it was a little nerve-wracking for Friday. It's usually the pressure you might feel towards the end of the tournament. But, you know, I got through it. I made a couple pars, and, you know, I wish I had that putt on the last hole back again.
First round leaders Adam Scott and Jim Furyk are in the Group 2 back, with England's Justin Rose a shot further adrift. Notables to miss the cut included Ernie Els, Padraig Harrington, and Bubba Watson. Tiger Woods is 10 shots back at +1. Jameson Wong, TVB News.
In football, Bayern Munich opened their defence of their Bundesliga title with a 3-1 win over Borussia Mönchengladbach. Arjen Robben and Mario Mandzukic and David Alaba were the goal scorers for the German champions. A Bayern own goal accounted for the other score. The match was also Pep Guardiola's first league game in charge of the squad. On to cricket now, and at the Ashes, Australia limited England to 238 for 9 at the close of day 1 of the 4th Test. Alistair Cook was England's top scorer with 51, while Jonathan Trott had 49 at Chester Street. The hosts have yet to post a total of more than 400 this series, but England have already retained the Ashes after a draw last week at Old Trafford.
And that's the news for tonight.
Thanks for watching. Good night.
Good evening. It was mainly fine and very hot today. At 5 p.m., a ridge of high pressure brought fine weather to southeastern China. And today's temperatures ranged from 28.2 to 33.2 degrees, and the relative humidity was between 71 to 87%. Light to moderate westerly winds. The current temperature is now standing at 31 degrees Celsius, and the relative humidity is 74%. The very hot weather warning is now in force. So, Freddie, how's the weather tomorrow? It will be mainly fine and very hot. Apart from isolated showers and thunderstorms tomorrow, temperatures will range from 28 to 33 degrees. Mainly fine again with isolated showers on Monday. Tomorrow's API is forecast at 20 to 90, and the air pollution level will range from low to high. The maximum UV index forecast for tomorrow will be about 11. And now to the latest global weather update. Cloudy in Shanghai, Taipei, and Xiamen. Sunny in Guangzhou, bright in Macau, rain in Chengdu. Rain in Beijing, cloudy in Seoul and Tokyo. Thunderstorms in Bangkok, rain in Ho Chi Minh City and Manila. Bright in Kuala Lumpur, thunderstorms in Singapore, showers in Jakarta. Thunderstorms in New Delhi, rain in Karachi and Mumbai. Sunny in Cairo, showers in Nairobi. Sunny in Brisbane, Sydney, and Melbourne, thunderstorms in Auckland. Sunny in Toronto, bright in New York. Sunny in Vancouver, cloudy in San Francisco, bright in Los Angeles. Bright in London, cloudy in Paris and Frankfurt, showers in Amsterdam, sunny in Zurich. And that's the weather. Good night.